Hi, I'm Chris Bailey with the Chalet Insurance Agency, and here today with Ben Williard of Family Practice Center. Ben is the CFO of Family Practice Center, and wanted to learn a little bit about laboratory services that are available to local employers and insured individuals in the region, and just find a little bit more out about the services that are available. So Ben, tell us a little bit about yourself, please.
Sure. So, as Chris mentioned, my name is Ben Williard, CFO for Family Practice Center. Just a little plug for Family Practice Center, talk about who we are. I think that will help illustrate some of our services as well. We have roughly 40 primary care sites throughout the state, so cover a lot of the geographic region here in central PA, really ranging from Williamsport down to the Harrisburg metro market, have grown down into even York and starting to venture down to Lancaster market as well. So take care of a lot of people in this region. One of the things that I'm very proud of and honored to be a part of with this organization is the fact that we have retained the community-driven mindset. As we've grown, we have not lost sight that we are community-driven, and we're still independently owned. So our physicians own the organization, leads to a unique environment for not only our patients, but quite honestly, our staff and providers as well, that we feel leads to a significantly enhanced collaborative relationship between the patients and the physician because of that community-driven, independent mindset. So happy to be here talking with Chris today to talk about our services, and one of the big services we'll highlight is our laboratory services, which are high quality, low cost, which is something I think everyone could use. So happy to talk about that today.
Great, thank you, Ben. So first question is, I notice when I'm on your website, I see that the lab is CAP certified. Is that, am I using that appropriately?
That is correct.
Okay.
Yes.
That sounds impressive. I'm wondering if you could just explain a little bit about what that means.
Yes. So when we look at laboratory, there's a couple governing bodies that govern the lab to ensure that it's high quality, meeting all the standards that you'd expect a medical facility or medical laboratory to meet. One of the big ones is CLIA. So CLIA is the actual governmental agency that monitors lab standards. Just for reference, CLIA has roughly 500 or so standards that they require an organization to meet with their laboratory that they deem are imperative for high quality analytical studies to be performed. On the flip side, CAP is essentially a third-party way to not only ensure you're meeting those CLIA standards, but to really enhance the overall accuracy and precision of your laboratory by reviewing roughly 3,000 standards. So they actually come in, it's an organization, they come in, they essentially do an audit / review on your processes, on your equipment, your manuals, all those things that are important to run a high quality laboratory. And in doing so, really vet your system out and make sure you're doing things high quality, make sure you're doing things per not only the CLIA standards, but also standards that they have deemed important as well. And in the review process, you not only check boxes off saying, yes, we are doing what we need to do, but you often find things that enhance your overall laboratory as well that you may have been doing but could do better, or maybe have not been doing, that are new, cutting edge, criteria that you must really think about when you run a laboratory.
That's fantastic.
So essentially, in short, it's the gold standard in lab certifications, and by being CAP certified, you're essentially saying to the end user, you are getting your labs complete, and they are being analytically reviewed by a high quality certified laboratory that's meeting not only governmental expectations, but even higher than that, meeting a third party's expectations that are very, very intense and rigid. But in doing that process, it adds a level of guarantee and assurance to our patients that they're getting high quality healthcare.
That's fantastic. And I was fortunate enough in the past to get a peek behind the scenes at the lab, and it's really impressive, just the way it's organized, and to see all of the equipment and how efficiently everything is run. Can you speak a little bit to the equipment that's used in the laboratory?
Yeah, of course, I'd be happy to. Unfortunately, over the past 2 years or so, haven't been able to get the chance to broadcast this as much as we probably would have liked, quite honestly, given the climate of COVID and being preoccupied in some other areas and not being able to market like we would like.
Sure.
But the laboratory is very impressive. We're very proud of it. So the equipment is in partnership with Beckman Coulter, which is a large lab manufacturing company. They are on the cutting edge of lab equipment. So not only the analyzers that run the specific test, but also in form of automation as well. And that's really what we have been on the cutting edge of, is the automation piece. We actually signed a contract with Beckman to secure equipment that's labeled as DXA 5000. And the DXA, without getting too technical, the DXA 5000 was the first of its kind in North America in terms of automation.
Wow.
And we were actually the first entity to install it in North America. There has since been a few around the country, but we were one of the first. And really Beckman partnered with us very, very intricately and collaboratively to make sure that the first installation was a success. And we finished that right around when COVID became present in Central PA. So we've been running on the DXA 5000 now since March of 2020. Have really, I think, fine-tuned how to use the equipment. And essentially what the DXA 5000 is automation up front. So it takes away tons of manual processes. I have some statistics I would like to cite here in a second, but takes away a ton of manual processes up front. It then takes the test tube, runs it down the track automatically, and then filters it into the respective analyzer it needs to run the test on, brings it back out onto the track, and then actually automatically goes into a storage unit as well that's connected to the track system. So it's essentially fully automated from the time you put the test tube on the track until that test tube is eventually disposed of when the specimen is no longer valid. So it's very, 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 very impressive, and it's very actually cool to see. But it essentially is a guarantee that, again, there's high quality. One of the biggest concerns a lab could have is manual processes that have the possibility of negatively impacting the viability of the specimen. And by removing those manual processes, it drastically increases the chance that that specimen, and therefore the test run on that specimen, is accurate and can be relied on. So it's a really, really important thing in laboratory studies, and that's one of the reasons why we've been very happy with the DXA 5000. We believe it's enhanced care, amongst obviously enhancing some efficiencies and things like that. Some of the statistics I would like to cite here, and this is coming right from Beckman, is approximately 75% of laboratory errors occur pre-analytically, which is essentially, again, eliminated by the DXA because you're taking that test tube and you're putting it on the track. There is not a ton of things that happen other than the transport of the specimen to the lab, other than putting it on the track. Before a lot of manual processes, labeling tubes, a lot of manual processes of putting them in manually sorting them, taking them to the physical unit. That doesn't happen anymore.
Sure.
It's essentially brought to this laboratory from our offices, and it's put on the test track, or on the track, and the test is ran from there. 80% of the manual steps associated with processing a sample are automated using the DXA 5000. So those are some pretty big numbers that are real, and they've developed those numbers by analyzing processes and workflows. And one of the nice things about working with a company who's very enhanced in this realm is they also come in and review our workflows and processes. So up and above the CAP certification, we also have a laboratory partner who comes in, reviews our processes, compares them to what their other clients do. And it's that collegial, collaborative approach that, as we all get better and learn the system together, it enhances care for us, but all of their clients as well.
Sure.
So that's been a very great partnership. And again, a testament, I believe, to the fact that although we're still community driven and, I think from a community perspective, Family Practice Center is still a mom and pop company, which again,
Sure.
we love that, and that's really how we feel we are. But we have the necessary resources in place that you are not sacrificing care by coming to a Family Practice Center facility.
Sure,
And
not
that's
by any
something-
stretch.
Yeah. So the lab equipment, that's a rundown.
Wow.
But it's been a really nice asset for us over the past 2 years, and I look forward to continuing to learn and grow more with it. And I actually had this conversation about maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago with our lab staff that it really prepares us for the future in general. Being one of the earlier adopters of automation to this extent, I believe it's preparing us for whatever the future holds, and especially laboratory studies, which I think the sky's the limit. So I'm very, very happy about that.
That's fantastic. So I know that I know we preach to our clients that Family Practice Center is very low cost as far as performing laboratory services, but on the flip side, it's also very high tech. That's fantastic to know there's a combination of low cost to the consumer, but very high-end equipment being used and accurate results being delivered. So I think that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Great. Where's the lab located?
So it's in the building that we're in now, but that might not help you, the viewer right now. So the address is 270 Susquehanna Valley Mall Drive. The lab itself is really closed off. It's where all the specimens are processed, but we do have walk-in lab services in this same building. It's not in the laboratory suite, but in our Suite 100, which houses our sleep lab, houses occupational medicine, and also houses behavioral health as well. But in that office space, we have a dedicated lab draw site as well.
Okay,
so
great.
Staff who staff that facility are also cross-trained in drawing labs. So if you are a patient of FPC or not a patient of FPC, either is fine. I'll talk about what you need if you're not an FPC patient here in a second. But whether you're a patient of FPC or not, you can use this facility to walk in. It's entrance B, and you walk in, it's the first door on your left. You can have your labs drawn, and to be honest, they're on the same site as the lab, so very simple. Staff walks it over, it's processed the same day. So turnaround time is very quick, and if you have a valid order, again, whether you're an FPC patient or non-FPC patient, we can process that lab if it's something that we do.
Sure.
So one of the things that I would recommend is it is walk-in, but it's always nice to call ahead just to make sure that if you have an order, we can fulfill that order. We don't run every test on the planet, but what I will say is we run 99.9% of your more routine things. So I really don't envision that being a problem, not being able to run a test. If you're having a pretty general normalized test, we're going to be able to run that. So if you're a non-FPC patient, just bring a valid order from a provider, and that can be a non-FPC provider, and we can take that order, run the test, and then we result that out to the ordering provider, who's the non-FPC provider. If you're an FPC patient, it's very simple. Talk to your primary care physician, PA, nurse practitioner that you see. Talk to them about the labs that you need. They'll put an order in. We work off of the same health record system that interfaces with our lab system, and they'll run and process the test the same way and have the result back to your provider. If it's run in the morning, if it's collected in the morning, it usually will be run that same day.
Wow.
In the afternoon. If it's collected in the afternoon, it will be run that evening, most likely, with the result will be reported out either that evening or early the next day. So turnaround time is always under 24 hours. That's another key piece to having the automated system. It allows us to do the volume we do, which is pretty substantial, but do it in an efficient, timely manner, which is very, very important for lab studies as well. So yeah, I would recommend calling. The number of the facility itself that does the walk-in lab draws is 570-884-7921, and we'll get that to the Shell agency to have to add in their materials as well. But they will be able to tell you, yes, we have someone available right now to draw. That's a key thing. Make sure they have the
Sure.
staffing available
Sure.
on site, but they should.
Are there standard hours?
There are, but they can change. So
Okay.
I think it would be less beneficial of mentioning them on this because if they change. But my recommendation would be to call ahead at a time, even if you're walking in, just to give them a heads up. Hey, I'm on my way. Is that okay? Does that work for you? And just to guarantee that they can fulfill that order.
Okay.
For sure.
Great, great. So my next question, we'll just give you a scenario. I'm a family practice center. Family practice center is my primary care provider. If I am at an appointment, say at an endocrinologist, and the specialist says, I'd really like to run some labs for you, and maybe this endocrinologist, works for a different health system, and it would be that physician's standard operating procedure to have my labs done at a facility other than family practice center. Can you walk me through what I would need to do as an informed patient to be able to come to FPC, have my labs done here?
Yeah, of course. I think this is it's probably one of the bigger misconceptions in healthcare. We, at the end of the day, we are all just trying to take care of the patient the best way we can, regardless of entity. But patients don't understand fully what their role in healthcare can be. And I think one of the things that we are, again, proud of is the fact that we do have high quality, low cost services available to our patients. And in that scenario, Chris, you would definitely have the right to tell your provider at another entity that you would like to have your labs processed. Again, that's given that we can process those specific labs at another facility, i.e. at Family Practice Center. And that should not be an issue at all. Again, I want to promote that we do have very collaborative relationships with the other systems in this region, such as Geisinger, Evangelical, UPMC, and we have pathways in place where we communicate data back and forth on shared patients. So again, in that scenario, Chris, if we have a lab that is ordered by a physician at, let's just use Geisinger for example,
Sure.
and we run the test, we will be able to report that result back to that physician at Geisinger, and they'll be able to see the results and quite honestly rely on the result the same way they would be able to rely on a result from a Geisinger laboratory. So it's fully the patient's responsibility. Again, we want to offer that as an option because we are proud of the fact that we are high quality, low cost. So if that's what works best for the patient in that given scenario, we are 100% open to processing that result, and we are 100% able to process that result and transmit it to another entity who this patient, or in your scenario, you, Chris, are seeing at a facility such as Geisinger, Evangelical, UPMC.
Great. So I, as the patient in that scenario, just educate me a little bit. Would I actually physically have an order from the provider? Would the provider electronically submit the order to Family Practice Center? How does that work?
It's going to depend on the system,
Okay.
and to be safe, to be, I guess, more conservative on ensuring you have what you need. A paper order is actually not a bad thing,
Okay.
quite honestly. But in a lot of scenarios, we should be able to take an order from another provider. But paper order always works well, especially if you're a non-FPC patient. Paper order is very, very useful, so I would encourage people to do that. I think one of the biggest things I would stress is really just kind of getting a better understanding and communicating. So, if you have questions about, what test that physician is ordering, just ask. And if you're not sure if FPC runs those tests and you're interested in using FPC laboratory, just call and ask. It's really about being engaged in your healthcare and asking questions, and usually both sides, again, we're trying our best to take care of the patient the best we can. So hopefully, by asking around and getting more information, we can do that better.
Yeah. That's one of the great things about where we are in our region is the collaborative efforts made, between the health systems and specifically Family Practice Center and the different health systems that are in the region. So I think we all benefit from that. So that's great. If I am not, and you touched on this a little bit, if I am not a patient of Family Practice Center, if I utilize somebody other than an FPC provider as my primary care physician, and again, maybe my sugar's a little high, or it's suspect that it is, and I'm told to have labs. If, again, in that situation, do I have the option of accessing Family Practice Center for those laboratory services?
Yes, you do. And again, that's going to depend on, a few things, but in general, the answer to that question is yes. So
Okay.
Could depend on maybe your insurance. I mean, we take most major insurances, so I don't envision that being a roadblock, but for whatever reason, that could potentially be one. But in most cases, yes, the answer to that question is yes. It just, again, goes back to that communication. And I think being upfront about, what you are expecting from your provider on both ends.
And in that scenario, in order for me to have that laboratory service done, I would utilize this facility, the walk-in clinic.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep, that's the most ideal. As you can imagine, we do have lab drawing sites, which I did not touch on. And if you're an FPC patient, you're obviously familiar with this. But all of our offices do draw labs on site.
Mm-hmm.
So those 40 locations all have dedicated staff, have a dedicated area, and trained staff that can secure, and do blood draws and do it effectively and efficiently. But as you can imagine, having a volume of patients that come through the door in addition to lab draws of their own patients, offices can be rather busy. So we do encourage the non-FPC patients to come to the walk-in site. I think it's actually the best experience for the patient.
Sure.
But also it's dedicated to and designed to do that, whereas our offices are not. They're really trying to take care of the natural flow of patients that come in and out on a daily basis. And if we have an influx of walk-ins, it could really burden that office. So we really encourage, we want to make it a good service for you all as well, as non-FPC patients. So we would really encourage you to use the walk-in site here in Selinsgrove, especially if you live in this central region.
Great. All right. Well, Ben, I want to thank you very much for taking time out of your very busy schedule to educate all of us, myself included, on some of the services that Family Practice Center has to offer. So thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Well, thanks for coming, Chris. It's always nice to catch up. And for those of you watching, look forward to taking care of you soon, and hope that we can continue to offer high quality, low cost services here in Central PA.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.